In late June of 2024, Ultimate's weekly online major, the Coinbox, had a small yet explosive change in the rule set, which had Final Smash meter turned on. And to many viewers, most of whom are fans of competitive Smash, it would be the first time seeing Final Smashes since character reveal trailers or casual get-togethers. And at first, it was cool to see the combos, jank, and flashy super moves, but after a while, the spectacle wore off. I remember how excited I used to be for Final Smashes. The screen would darken, a bright glow would emit from my character, and then it got me thinking. What changed from Final Smashes and Brawl? Why do the Final Smashes of today feel so hollow, like there's something missing? While I still continue to be entranced by... Final Smashes were introduced in Brawl, but did you know that they were planned to be included as early as Smash 64? In an interview with Satoru Iwata, Masahiro Sakurai revealed they had even gone as far as recording voice clips for Final Smashes. And sure enough, by looking through Smash 64's debug menu,
Come on! Blue Falcon! PK! Start!
the idea was most likely scrapped due to the limitations of the N64 and left out of Melee due to the short development period. But Brawl was the perfect title for the introduction of Final Smashes. With more development time, Smash Bros. Being a household name, and the Wii console skyrocketing in popularity, it was a defining feature of the game, and solidified the public's perspective on the franchise as a casual party game. And no, I was not talking about tripping. Each character's Final Smash was unique, and usually included some aspect of their respective game or individual character. But not only that, there was a variety of functionality with the entire cast. Transformations, creating stage hazards, commanding armies, giant laser beams. So many iconic finishers came out of Brawl. Who could forget such famous memes as
Personally, I prefer the air.
or
It's showtime.
or
My big guy dance.
or even
Luigi.
the personality, the pizzazz that each Final Smash had was iconic. I know all these moves are well over a decade old, but it's easy to forget the absolute shock and spectacle of seeing and using these moves for the first time. And the best part was that a lot of these moves had extra secrets and features attached to them. Donkey Kong's Final Smash actually gets stronger if you hit the buttons to the beat. The Star Fox characters have a few unique maneuvers and attacks with the Landmaster, and a few of the Transformation Final Smashes have entirely unique frame data and additional effects to their movesets. These super moves had entire moves themselves. Most Final Smashes in Brawl had an extra attack, or were able to be controlled in some way. I'm sure many of you are quite familiar with the glitch involving Jigglypuff and the Bridge of Eldin, where she can grow 10 times her size by interrupting her Final Smash when the terrain regenerates. But maybe you didn't know. Rob's Final Smash can indefinitely stay active. The Star Fox characters, Marth and Kirby, can get a dose of protagonist syndrome. And Meta Knight can freeze opponents by using their Final Smash in conjunction with stages with regenerating terrain like the Bridge of Eldin, Green Hill Zone, Spear Pillar, and even the Pirate Ship. Glitches like these added to the insanity of Final Smashes and made them really stand out as a feature of the game. With the next game in the series, Final Smashes in Smash 4 remained largely the same, but some characters had their Final Smashes changed from Brawl. This was the beginning of the end for Final Smashes. The spark was beginning to die out, and Final Smashes with little oddities and mechanics were beginning to be replaced with cinematic finishers. Now, don't get me wrong, these are pretty cool. Captain Falcon's Final Smash is a great example of this, and it can get pretty ridiculous with mods. Characters were getting their Final Smashes replaced with avoid this one trigger hitbox, and if you don't, you die. But there are a few standouts. Charizard and Lucario got new Final Smashes, which included their Mega Evolutions. On the other side of things, Bowser Jr. and Rosalina and Luma got the Jigglypuff treatment. They had pretty boring and notoriously ineffective Final Smashes. With even more characters, it was becoming difficult to make a unique finisher for each member of the cast. In my opinion, the new fighters' Final Smashes weren't the problem. It was the changes or nerfs that were the most disappointing. But looking at it objectively, the changes made more sense for their characterization. Most people know Luigi for his appearance in Luigi's Mansion, and not for his crippling existential oppression, being in the shadow of his older brother. But gosh darn it, doesn't it make for such a great Final Smash? But Smash Ultimate, ooh, Smash Ultimate. There were a lot of things that Ultimate got right, and a lot of things that it got wrong. But this is where I draw the line, Sakurai. We can be able to buffer moves until I have my retirement benefits. We can have Steve be as broken as he is in Ultimate. We can have World of Light be the husk of an adventure mode it is compared to the Subspace Emissary. But not only when you remove Negative Zone, but also Wario Man? That's too much, man! In Brawl and Smash 4, Wario was one of the few characters who had received a transformation Final Smash which gave ridiculous buffs to their old movesets and frame data. But let's take a closer look at how Wario Man worked in Brawl. When Wario activates his Final Smash, he turns into Wario Man. He can run as fast as Sonic and has the fastest aerial speed in the game. All his moves are buffed in damage and have extremely little end lag. His down air is now a stall and fall that spikes, and his other aerials give you height, which allows you to zoom across the stage like a fighter jet. His waft stuns opponents when uncharged, charges faster than normal, and can KO at 0%. His bike can outrun the cars on Big Blue. It's really easy to accidentally KO yourself if you don't jump off in time. Wario Man's up special goes much farther and now deals electric damage for some reason. During his transformation, he can't be hit at all and is immune to footstools, but can take damage by eating explosives and be KO'd by running off the stage. In addition, he also gains more weight despite being invincible. Hilariously, he's not immune to Brawl's random tripping. Even Wario Man can't escape the clutches of Sakurai. All of these Final Smash transformations, and especially Wario Man, were loved by the community, adding so much fun and freedom, almost like a vanilla turbo mode on Wario. Both Giga Bowser and Wario Man were even made playable in Project M. The ridiculous combos and gameplay that emerged from these characters made Brawl a unique and standout title in an already established franchise. Now, let's take a look at Wario Man and Smash Ultimate.
Yes.
What? This is what I like to call the PNG-ification of Final Smashes. You know how there was the oversimplification of logos? This is the same thing, but for Final Smashes. I mean, look at the changes that Giga Bowser received from Melee to Brawl and to Smash 4, and the dedication and time that went into making such a cool and unique feature is undeniable here. And now it's just replaced with...
And there comes a giant fish!
Most Final Smashes in Ultimate now fall into two main categories. Cutscene, moves that get you stuck in an inescapable hit, or Stage Hazard, where your character does a move and the other players have to avoid it. But the thing is, if you really think about it, this is how all Final Smashes function going all the way back to Brawl. The main difference being is the level of control, or lack thereof. Final Smashes don't feel like moves anymore. The weird and random effects of Negative Zone, the barrage of Waddle Dees, Doos, and Gordos, collecting the items from boiling your opponents alive, has all amalgamated into watching a 3-second cutscene with no control over your character. So what happened? Well, in a Nintendo Direct, Sakurai explains that Final Smashes were receiving an overhaul, making them straight and to the point. This change, alongside the addition of the Final Smash meter, which some fans of competitive were briefly interested in adding to rule sets, led most to believe that this was in the interest of making Final Smashes more competitive friendly. But for someone who hasn't always kept the competitive community's interests a high priority, the notion that this change was done to make Final Smashes competitively viable is perplexing to say the least. I believe the reason for these changes is because there are way too many characters, so programming interesting, unique Final Smashes for the entire cast just isn't as feasible as it was in Brawl. To show you how simplistic and boring these Final Smashes are, I decided to make one of my own.
Get ready for my ultimate now. This is the end for you.